Is now the time to buy the Bedard dip, or is an even bigger downswing coming to his market? We'll debate this and get an update on Ovechkin and play some buy, sell, hold. This is episode 30 of the Hockey Card Haven podcast. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. This is the Hockey Card Haven podcast, powered by Slabsharks, with your hosts Mike Distefano and Anthony Santini. We are a weekly Wednesday show diving deep into the world of hockey card collecting, flipping, and investing. You can find us on YouTube and also up on Spotify for you on-the-go listeners, and soon to be up on Apple Podcasts as well. We will definitely let you know when that goes through and that happens. Lots to get into, though, today, Anthony. A lot to get into. We both have a hobby rant we want to go on a little bit, which is always fun. We'll dive into the struggles of Connor Bedard and how that's impacting his hobby market. And we're going to play some buy, sell, hold and get into all the usual hobby news, show pickups. It's a busy weekend for card shows as well. We got stuff going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So lots to get into today. So we'll dive right into it. And I want to start kind of with what a big hot button topic around the hockey card world right now, something that's kind of percolating out there. And we speculated about it last week, talking about, is the Connor Bedard dip coming? Are we starting to see some sales start to fall off with the way that he's played of late? And this week, I think it's official. I think we can confirm our gut feel from last week. The Bedard dip is here, Anthony. He's got just 3 goals, just 15 points in 21 games, and his market is free falling right now.
It's one of the biggest sophomore slumps that we've seen for an anticipated player coming into the league. We expected so much last year out of Connor Bedard. And realistically, even though he was injured, breaking his jaw last year, he still delivered through the games where he played. But starting this season, it's just been a struggle from the get-go. I was even on Twitter today. I saw you tweeted out that he's projected only 11 goals this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've seen people saying as high as 50 goals they were expecting, but it's just been a struggle for Bedard on the ice. And his market's definitely reflected it too in the past week and a half.
I mean, you look at the season he's having this year, 3 goals, 12 assists, just 15 points in 21 games. That's a pace of 11 goals and 58 points. I mean, this was supposed to be a big breakout year. This is, you look back on Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, the 2 other generational talents before Bedard, and those guys, their second year, they absolutely erupted. And we are not seeing that with Connor Bedard. It's been a big struggle for him. Goalless in over a calendar month. That, to me, is probably the biggest concern when I look at Connor Bedard and the way that he's playing. 13 straight games without a goal, hasn't scored since October 26th, over a calendar month. And he's pointless, Anthony, in 5 of his last 6 games. Now, I get it. The team stinks. He doesn't have a lot of help with him, but neither did Connor McDavid. Neither did Sidney Crosby when he got there. Like, those guys are able to, do things on their own. And it is starting to make a lot of people question, who have invested a lot into Connor Bedard, who have a lot of Bedard cards, young guns, future watches, other, rookies and autos and whatnot, thinking maybe he's not this generational talent that we thought he was going to be. Like, I don't know. What do you make of all this as, I guess, someone who finally got into the Bedard market a week ago, and now all of a sudden we're seeing a big dip, like 21% drop in his market over the last since the start of the season. The last PSA 10 sale was for $863. His last PSA 9 sale, $336.
Wow.
So you're sending your card off for grading. It's in your grading pile, Anthony. If that thing doesn't come back at 10, you're taking an L on that Bedsy.
Yeah, I think too, the biggest surprise is that, I mean, as a sports card realist, I think I understand kind of how to anticipate the hobby in a sense. I feel like everyone that's been in the hobby knows that when a player comes in, obviously there's going to be so much hype. And when Bedard came in, there was insane hype. And months went by. I didn't pick up any Bedard, and I feel like everyone had the anticipation that his prices were going to slowly, as the market got watered down, lots of new cards coming in, slowly decrease.
It took a lot longer to happen than I thought it would, though. Like, I thought we were gonna see this dip to, like, my guess was, okay, we could probably see raw sales of about 250 by midsummer and probably get in the 800, 700 range for a PSA 10 by midsummer, and that never happened. It still hovered around, 1,100 for a PSA 10, and raws, you were still, 350 to $400. So it actually made it all the way through the summer, all the way to the buildup again for this season, and it's not until we saw this massive slump that he's in to finally impact the market.
Yeah, and I think too that comes from his play, of course. All summer, the crazy anticipation coming into the season after what was a pretty good rookie year, winning rookie of the year and still starting out as one of the top forwards in the league. When you watch him, he was just so offensively talented, and now it's almost like his game has dulled out slightly. And like you said too, the team does stink. It is what it is. There's not a lot of offensive talent built around him, but I don't think a lot of people in the hobby anticipated his prices to dip because of his play. I mean, I expected his prices to always dip. I never thought his young guns were going to be sustainable around
Right.
$350, $400. But the last thing coming from my mind, thinking as to why his prices would dip, is because of his play. In the past month, we've just seen a pure example of a regress. I don't want to say that he doesn't have the talent to be a generational talent. That was obviously what he was touted out to be when he was drafted. I still think he's a fantastic player in a little bit of a slump right now on a bad team. If I could pick up more Bedard, I guess this is the right time to start doing it. That's kind of where I stand in this situation, because I think 3, 4, 5 years down the road, he's still going to have that hobby hype, and he's going to be one of the most collectible players in the hobby. He still is one of the most popular players in the hobby, but as of right now, his market has really, really been affected by this poor play.
Oh, 100%. And that was going to be the next question. Like, we're going to play buy, sell, hold in a little bit, but I guess a little early preview of what's to come. Like Connor Bedard, like if I give you a Young Guns right now, you buying, selling, or holding? I guess you just said you're buying, but we just saw last sale was at 863. Would you rather buy at that price? Like, is that what you're willing to buy it at 860?
I mean, I'd probably rather pick up some raw ones around like 225,
You're
250
not.
if I
I
can
mean,
see
you'd
them.
have to. You probably are still gonna have to wait a little bit till it gets down to that price.
Yeah, I mean, you never know going at these shows, seeing what people are selling for. People love to panic sell, and especially when the market isn't there for a player, they might think that this card might plummet to $50, $60. I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think that's outrageous, but there are people out there that will see 10, 20, 30% decreases in their cards and panic sell just because they want to get their money out of it. So if
True.
you are going to a show this weekend, which we're going to get into, lots of shows, lots of chances to get Bedard, have a conversation with people, because people might want to get out of their Bedard Young Guns if they think he's not this generational talent that everyone touted him out to be.
So you are buying Bedard. You're buying the dip.
I'll buy the dip. I mean, I have been staying away ever since his card started coming out. The Bedard Young Guns that I showed just 2 episodes ago, or 1 episode ago, I believe,
Yeah.
was the first Young Gun and the first Connor Bedard card I owned over, I think, $5. I had the Hockey Day in Canada ones that they were giving away for free, whatever those ones were. I don't even know if they're Upper Deck products, but those were the only Bedard cards I had, because I really tried to stay away. I expected this to come, but I did not expect this to come at all from his play.
So if the dips come from his play, does that mean, in your opinion, that if he turns it around, we could see it shoot back up? Because that's the other thing too. Because we've seen like, once you've been spoiled in this hobby, I don't mean that in a good way, as like spoiled as in spoiled milk. In this hobby, it is tough to reclaim your value. So that's kind of where I think there's going to be a little bit of concern with Bedard, where he's going to have to put up McDavid-like numbers, maybe to reclaim the popularity that he had coming out of the gate. Like, I mean, this guy was selling for better than Austin Matthews, which at the time we talked about being absolutely insanity. And it's still kind of insane that he's selling right in and around Matthews' range. Now, I guess it's lower than that. He sells for more than McKinnon, though, which is still insane to think about. That, like, literally selling less than last year's league MVP, and one of the best players in the world. but that's kind of where we're at right now when you talk about Connor Bedard. But my point was like, we've seen time and time again where guys come out of the gate and they are highly touted players and they put up a good rookie year or a good couple seasons, but then they kind of get put to the wayside and it's tough for them to reclaim that hobby value. Like
No.
that's the only thing that I'm worried about when it comes to buying into Bedard right now. I don't know where the floor is for Connor Bedard. I think that's the problem.
I think that's fair to say too, because like you said, people like their markets get spoiled all the time. Great example is Dylan Guenther. And 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we were just having the conversation at the start of the season of how crazy his market jumped up, almost tripling in value. $10 Young Guns going for almost $30, $35. PSA 10s going for $250 when they used to go for $60, $70. But then now that Gunther is back to where borderline his prices were before that big jump, the first 3 games of the summer, it's going to be the season, sorry. It's going to be very, very challenging for him to reclaim that $20 Young Gun, that $30 Young Gun. Sorry.
It's all good. No, I completely understand where you're coming from. That's kind of my point with Bedard. I'm a little, I'm holding off, I guess. Like, you're willing to buy the dip. I think it's going to keep dipping a little bit more. So I might wait for it to dip a little lower to a point that I'm more comfortable with when it comes to getting into the Bedard number, just because, again, I'm just not sure, especially when you look at the pop count. Like, we're talking about a card that has a population count of 6,177. More PSA 10s of Connor Bedard than any other hockey card in existence. It's insane. So it's not like it's a scarce card by any stretch of the imagination. And if his play is not matching the values, and we're going to see more cards come out. I mean, what about when Series 2 comes out and it's one of Matvei Michkov or Celebrini, who are both playing better than Connor Bedard right now? Their Young Guns come out when Series 2 releases, and all of a sudden, all the hobby dollars are now pointing towards that new blood, right? The fresh, the new girl in school, new girl in class. I mean, at that point, I could see it dipping even further just because the market cap is going to be lower. Like, I really, I'm not sold that Bedard is going to be a big seller at this point, or a big buyer for me. I want to wait a little bit on this.
I mean, even too, like you bring up a great point with Michkov and Celebrini. Celebrini's playing amazing hockey ever coming back from that injury too.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows I'm a big fantasy player. He's season rank 40 right now, and he just came off a massive week, borderline droppable in most leagues, and now he's just one of the best centers. He's playing like in the league. Sorry to get into this fantasy analysis, but that's exactly what he's doing right now. And when you can't even have that same conversation for a guy as in Bedard, that you were just having a generational talent conversation, someone who's expected to score 11 goals on pace for 58 points, I believe you said, this year. It's just outrageous to think that everyone 6 months ago was talking about this guy being over Austin Matthews prices for a PSA 10, over Nathan McKinnon prices for a Raw, which he is very close to even still. And to bring up that point too with Michkov, he's playing amazing hockey. No Young Gun out for him yet, or Celebrini. But when those cards come out, people are going to start to latch on, like you said, because it's where the hobby is driven. It's driven by the hype. It's driven for what's next, who's next, which player's next. We saw it happen with Lane Hudson. And if Connor Bedard goes through a really tough season this year and he comes out of the gate slow next year, it could be very, very hard for his market to pick up. Personally, my personal opinion is I still think he's a buy. I still think he's a generational talent. I've watched him play hockey. I was the same guy watching him in awe with my jaw on the floor, watching him when he scored that OT winner for Team Canada, I believe against Slovakia.
Yeah,
was it?
against kids his own age, not
Like,
against
just
men.
unreal.
And that's the big difference. That's the difference. Like, we've seen time and time again, players absolutely tear it up and rip it up in junior. But when you're that small, you're 5'10", 170 pounds, are you able to do that against men? Can you lean and can you create that space against people in the NHL, against grown-ass men? So far, Bedard has proven that he's having troubles doing that this year. He has struggled with that this year. And when you've got top-tier goaltenders who can react to your, all-star elite level release, and who are so big, taking up so much of the net, that even just the fact that they're there, so massive, they're probably going to get a piece of it, right? Where that's not necessarily the case in junior. So that's why it is a little concerning to me. I don't know. I think that this dip could continue to go, and not that it's going to plummet to zero. Like, I don't think it's a complete dead stock and a dead weight that you're holding here. But I think there's just a few factors. The pop count is one, the poor play is another. And then I look at where future dollars can end up going in this hobby. Again, Series 2 comes out, Extended comes out, whichever they decide to put Celebrini and Michkov in. I'm assuming they're going to split them up in both of those. There'll be a chase in either or. You're going to see a lot of people shifting out of chasing Bedard and chasing those guys. And then that, again, it's all hype and it's all supply and demand. So if there's less demand, there's a bounty supply, a massive supply of Bedard young guns, whether it's raw, PSA 10, PSA 9, whatever it may be. I mean, there's not going to be a bidding war for it. I just think that we're going to continue to see this stuff plummet. Even if he has a decent season, let's say he ends up having, 75 points. He's only on pace for 58, but let's say he finishes with 30 goals, 75 points, which I think is still very likely it could happen. I don't think that's enough, though, to justify spending $850 on a PSA 10 Young Guns that has such a high supply. So I think eventually that is going to make that mindset is going to make its way into a lot of collectors, flippers, investors, and it's just not going to be anyone willing to pay that. So people are going to have to cut their prices and drop their prices on Bedard. They're going to want to get out of those investments and recoup some costs to reinvest in the Michkovs and the Celebrinis and whoever is coming up next. So yeah, you can buy all you want. I personally am going to hold off because I think that there'll be a better buying period a few months from now.
So my question to you is a little bit off the board here, but if you're, I believe it's David Adams that have the $1 million bounty on the 1/1 Connor Bedard Young Guns, and someone comes knocking at the door tomorrow morning, they're like, "Hey, I'll take that money."
Is that still available? Like, that's still out there?
So that's my question, because I know that there was clauses to it. I believe there was a set date that they would be buying it if it did come out. And there was also the condition of the card they wanted to look at if it was, I believe, up to PSA 8 condition or up.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, if you were to go out right now, you're David Adams, they come knocking at the door and someone says to you, "Look, I got the card that you want to buy for $1 million right now." Are you still holding up that end of the bargain as long as you didn't put any date in the clause? Because right now, I don't know if that card's looking like a big buy right now for $1 million. $1 million?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything on the website or anywhere that's like saying it's still available. The answer is no. It was never worth $1 million. I know we could definitely say that. Ultimately, it was a big marketing ploy too, to get people to buy boxes and buy their product. I wouldn't be surprised if Upper Deck even kind of was willing to pay them a little bit of money to make sure that people bought product and got into the hobby and whatnot. But I'm not sure if that's still available. If I was David Adams, I sure as hell would try every single way to make that null and void, that offer. Yeah, we haven't even heard. I don't know if it's been ripped. I don't know if it has or hasn't been claimed, and if there's an expiration date to that bounty. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a good question. It certainly is. It wasn't worth $1 million on release day. It sure as hell ain't worth anywhere near that today, a month after he's scored his last goal in the NHL. Definitely not. All right, Anthony, you've got some notes in here on Phil Tomasino. You have a rant that you want to go on today. What's your gripe with the Phil Tomasino market? He was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins this past week for a 4th round pick, former 1st rounder from the Nashville Predators, kind of fell out of favor there. He's now in Pittsburgh, but you've got an issue with this market. What's up?
I mean, for me, I'm a little bit biased because I am a Philip Tomasino collector. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I do have a lot of nice Philip Tomasino cards that I feel like even when I was buying them in the middle of the summer, I found they were very cheap. But I knew what kind of market I was getting into too. He was drafted in the first round in the 2019 draft, and he was actually just pulling up the notes here. So the one struggle with Philip Tomasino and collecting him in his market, I found in Nashville, was he was behind so many talented right shot forwards, especially coming into this season too. Marchessault, Stamkos, Evangelista, Forsberg. It was nearly impossible for him to find his spot on the first power play on that Nashville team. I didn't really anticipate it. I even talked about it a couple months ago, him maybe getting traded to Montreal when we were talking about it in the summer, all kinds of conversations like that. That was the goal. But for me, when I was in class sitting there on Monday and I get the notification that Philip Tomasino has just moved to Pittsburgh, the team that Sidney Crosby plays for, the team that Cody Glass got traded for in the summer, and out of nowhere, he had a nice little hobby bump, almost tripling in value. I thought to myself, holy blank, I got a bunch of nice Tomasino stuff sitting at home, like Future Watch patches, inscribed Future Watch, what's it called? Future Watch patch retro, the Cup rookie auto patches, all kinds of nice stuff. And I was thinking, I'm really going to rake it in right now. Come to my surprise, it's been 2-3 days now, and there's been minimal sales on any cards. PSA 10's valued around $15 to $30, which I think is just outrageous. And to really build on the conversation and show you where Tomasino is right now in his career, virtually tied with Shane Pinto and Connor McMichael in career points, all around 150 games played and varying around 70 to 80 points. I know that Pinto and McMichael have kind of had their breakout seasons.
Right. So it's a little disingenuous to pull out that stat.
So a little skewed, but to come out and flat out say, and I've heard it on all types of hockey podcasts, that Tomasino is a first round bust, I think is outrageous because he's been bumping up and down from Nashville to the AHL to Nashville to the AHL, struggling to find that PP1. Now, if he could find himself on a line with maybe Rickard Rakell and Sidney Crosby, I think, he bumps off Brian Rust on that.
Why would he bump off Brian Rust?
I just think that he is so offensively talented. I watched him when he was on Niagara, watched him when he was playing the GTHL.
If you think that Phil Tomasino is going to bump Brian Rust off of Sidney Crosby's line,
I think it's really possible. I mean, this guy's very offensively talented. I think he could still drop 20 goals this season if they use him right. And my biggest gripe right now is that he has the same career points as Pinto and McMichael, but he's viewed as a bust. I know it's a little bit of a cherry pick stat that I'm pulling because Connor McMichael's been so amazing this year, and they were both viewed as bust borderline last year, I want to say. But I think there's a lot of opportunity still with Tomasino Young Guns. I don't know if you could get them for $15 at a show in a PSA 10. That's very extremely cheap. But if you do see them, I think not financial advice, but a very good opportunity to pick them up.
I mean, at that price, it's it's a low acquisition, I guess. It's low risk, potentially high reward. But I don't know. I don't think Phil Tomasino's necessarily. I just don't think he's going to turn out to be that good of a player. You're a little higher on him than I am. I think Cody Glass, there was a lot more lust on him because I think he's just a better player overall. He was drafted higher. And, we've seen a little bit more, proven to be a little bit more of a skilled player than Tomasino was. But like Phil Tomasino couldn't even get into the lineup in Nashville, and that's like a last place team. So I'm not so sure that I expected to see any type of hobby bump where you're traded for a 4th round pick. I don't know how many people are too excited about you to go out and gobble up those cards. Is there a possibility that he gets there and things start to click? Sure, of course there is. That happens all the time, especially if a couple injuries occur and, maybe he does get a chance to play with Crosby or with Malkin and does get to play in the top 6, maybe get some power play time and he starts to score. All right, it's possible. It's not impossible for him to turn things around. He's, yes, only 23 years old, and we saw McMichael kind of have a breakout this year, so there's still a chance for 23-year-olds to do that. I'm just not I'm not as sold as you are. I wasn't surprised to see a pretty stagnant market, I guess, for Tomasino, personally.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. I'll keep those receipts.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think? You think Phil Tomasino is going to turn into a $100 young gun? Is that what you're saying? Is that the lunch bet?
Personally, like little side, I do think he's gonna have a good end to the season this year.
Okay, give
I think
me
he
a
should.
prediction. Well, give me a prediction for like points. He's sitting at 1 assist through 11 games. What does he finish with?
I'll probably say he finishes with 20 goals this year, 10 of them being on the power play, and he fiddles through Crosby's line a couple times.
On crack. I'll take the under
all
day long.
All
day
right.
long.
Okay.
Okay. Taking the under. All right. Speaking of Crosby, I've got a little bit of a rant myself, and it has to do with Sid the Kid. Why doesn't he get enough hobby love, Anthony? That's my first question to you, as someone who's in the hobby, who's a collector, who's a flipper, an investor. I'm sure you've noticed that Sidney Crosby's market is nowhere near where it should be. And it seems like everybody who deals with Sidney Crosby's market, whether you're buying or selling or trading, transacting, the same conversation always had. He's so undervalued. How could you be undervalued for this long at this point in your career where you continue to hit milestones? Just hit 600 goals last week. I think only the 21st player in NHL history to do so. Hit 1,600 points just a couple of weeks ago. Even less players have done that. Keeps climbing all these all-time record books. Multi-time Stanley Cup champion. He's sitting there, and he's got a couple gold medals. He's got the golden goal. And we still see a stagnant market. Like, at this point, I mean, is Crosby just going to remain undervalued? Like, that's my question to you, because I feel like the last 3 years, I may have, like, I've bought a lot of Crosby cards. I have a lot of Crosby cards, some patches, some really cool patches, numbered patches, a couple autos. And it just feels like they're too cheap. But it's been 3 years, and they're just not going anywhere. They're not going up. They're not going down. It's just kind of the market. It is what it is. So at this point, I guess, is Crosby just going to perpetually be an underappreciated player in the hockey card hobby? I guess is my question.
I mean, I think it's very surprising, first of all, that we even have this conversation, because everything about Crosby and his market is so perfect when you align everything. His collectability, his likability, accomplishments, everything about him is perfect. 2 years ago, I was having a conversation with Eric, and we were just pretty much butting heads, saying Crosby or Ovi, who's going to be more collectible 5 years down the road. And I was all over Crosby. Like, when you look at, like you said, his accolades, multi-Stanley Cup champion. He got the golden goal for Canada. Like, that alone for any player can almost solidify you to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's just a side conversation. Already a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's without a debate. We all know this. But for the hobby relevance, it always seems that Crosby's cards are always stagnant, not really moving. Raw's going for around $1,000. PSA 10's going for around $3,700 to $3,800, and they haven't moved at all. Like, there's no hype.
I've got the last sale was for 3.3 thousand, which year to year, let's look at the year to year, is only up 0.5%. And that's after hitting 600 goals, hitting the 1,600 mark, and last year, like, had a near MVP level season. Now, I get it. The team is pretty junk this year. So, could that be impacting the market? Sure. But a player of that stature, like, that really shouldn't. Like, I feel like people should be, like, still wanting to collect Crosby for the pedigree of what he is, not what he's going to be. Like, Crosby's not a speculation. It's just it should be a sound investment. And it just, for whatever reason, doesn't feel like he's getting enough love throughout the hobby. Like I said, Pop 10 or his PSA 10 pop count's only 1,200. Like, that's like a fifth of what Connor Bedard's is, or a fourth or so of what Connor Bedard's is. And it's just bizarre. The last sale, 3.3 thousand. And I mean, Ovechkin, similar pop counts. He just sold for $7,000, double what Crosby sells for. Now, I understand why he's worth a little bit more with the goal chase happening, but double? He's worth double? Does that make sense?
I mean, I don't think it makes sense at all. Obviously, with the hype, and we talk about all the time, the hobby hype, what drives the hobby, what drives prices up, goal scoring and hype. And that's exactly what Ovechkin's going through right now. I mean, obviously dealing with an injury, we're seeing a little bit of a stall to that massive increase in prices. But the ability for Crosby's prices to really stay the same the past 2-3 years, it feels like he's always been $1,000 Young Guns in a raw, not much more, but you feel that he should almost be on par, if not more, with Ovechkin because they've always battled and dueled it out for what, 15, 20 years almost it's been now. And they've been head to head, but still with prices, we're really seeing Ovechkin take away and shoot off with, I mean, his Young Guns Raw, I believe, at its peak this season were almost $1,500 to $1,700.
Right now, they're going for about 15.
Insane.
Yeah, literally right now, it's going for like $1,500 for a Raw, and you can get a Crosby for like 1,000. Like it's crazy how much more affordable, I guess, Crosby is when you look at them. They're pretty neck and neck in terms of like their legacy in the NHL. Now the goal chase is obviously going to work, but then you also think like Crosby, golden goal, Canadian, that should make them pretty neck and neck. But for whatever reason, it's just not the case. He continues to just be a slept on player, an underappreciated player in the hobby. And the reason why I brought this up is because I had a trade offer the other day, someone offering me a Crosby rookie jersey auto. It was a really nice card. It was just a swatch, just a single color swatch, but a really nice autograph on it. I think it was numbered to 100 even, so like short printed. And it only sells for like $1,300. I thought this card was going to be, worth $2,500, $3,000 or something like that. Like a rookie jersey auto number to 100 of Sidney Crosby sells for less than a PSA 8 Young Guns of Alex Ovechkin. Like, it's just insane to me how that's the case.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
So it doesn't make any sense. And it's just, it's kind of wild, but I did want to show one card. This is my favorite Crosby card that I own. Really sick patch. O-Pee-Chee Remnants, Sidney Crosby, Sid the Kid. And it's a 3-color patch. It is beautiful. Numbered to 25. Yeah.
I think I was with 25. You at the expo when you bought that. That was right?
2 or 3 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago I bought this. And again, it's like still the same price as it was a couple of years ago. Like it hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down. I guess you can't complain that it hasn't gone down, but it's just it's a market that just remains stagnant, I guess, despite continuing to move up the rankings and hit new milestones. Yeah, it's just kind of a baffling thing that I wanted to bring up on the podcast today. I don't know if anyone else has the same thoughts, but it's like whenever you talk about a Crosby card, or if you're looking to buy one and it's a little high and then you go and you do the comps, and you're like, well, it's only selling for that. The report back is always, well, that's kind of undervalued. It should be more. Yeah. Therefore, I want more. It's like, well, it should be, but it's not. And it hasn't been for years. Like, maybe this is just what Crosby's market is. Unfortunately, he's an underappreciated player in the hobby. I don't know why that's the case. He checks every single box you could possibly imagine, yet there's not enough love for him to drive up the market the way that most superstars and generational talents in the sports card market are. It just kind of baffles me. Really, really does.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
All right. Speaking of Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, and a couple of greats, I want to play a game called Buy, Sell, Hold, Anthony. And I've got four different, I guess, trio of names I'm going to throw out to you. You got it. And one, we're talking about buying their market, holding their market, or selling their market. So you've got to put one into each category. And we're just going to consider the market, whether it's a future watch auto, flop, a cup RPA, or it's a Young Guns, whatever it may be. We're just talking about the player and investing in their market in its totality. So shout out to Seth, because we're not just talking about Young Guns here. We're talking about the market in its totality. Seth, you're welcome, buddy. I know you're listening. But let's start with the big boys, right? The three guys who really move the needle in this hobby, especially right now. And I'm talking Alex Ovechkin. We're talking Sidney Crosby. And I'm talking Connor McDavid, three heavy hitters of the hobby Who are you buying, selling, and holding on to between those three?
As of right now, I'm going to buy Crosby. That's what I want to advocate because his market, like we just talked about, always feels so undervalued.
What is it going to go up? I don't know. When's
I
it going
don't
to go
know.
up?
And
That's
I mean,
the problem.
even with the opportunity for him to still get traded, I know that's why he signed the contract. He wanted the conversations to end. But I think if he were to get moved,
is that what it would take? Would a trade make the hobby explode? If he goes to like Colorado or Toronto, what does that do for the? Is that what it would take? A trade out of Pittsburgh?
I mean, first of all, I don't think Kyle Dubas would gift the Toronto Maple Leafs with one of the best players to ever touch a sheet of ice. But
yeah,
traded,
if let's be honest, if Crosby says I want to go to Toronto, Dubas has to make it happen, though.
Yeah, that's fair too. That's fair too. But either way, I think if Crosby gets moved, that's going to make the hobby explode, especially to Colorado. I'm buying Crosby. I'm going to hold on McDavid. And with Ovechkin's market as a whole right now, I'm just going to sell. I'm selling it all. If I were to have any Ovi, I think I only have a couple autos. I'm going to wait for him probably to come back and start playing, but I'm selling off on Ovi.
Oh, I think I'm in the same boat, actually. I think Crosby, I agree with you. I think it's just super low. It's also just super sound to invest in. And I love Crosby. So I don't mind even just having like my PC. I would say if there's like a player that I do PC a little more than the rest, I love picking up beautiful Crosby patches and autos like that one that I just showed you, the OPG Remnant Sidney Kid. Like, as I think you noticed, there's no price tag on that one. And there's always price tags on my cards. That's because it's part of my PC. I just love the card. So, Crosby, I probably would buy, and hopefully eventually you expect the market to grow, but it's definitely not going to decline. I don't believe, unless we see, massive recession and whatnot, and the whole market kind of collapses. But other than that, I think Crosby's probably a very sound buy at the moment. McDavid's a good hold right now, just because there's a high ceiling with Connor McDavid. So, it's expensive to buy, but it also could go up. So I'll hold whatever McDavid that I have. And I'm with you. Ovechkin right now, the hottest seller in the hobby. And even though the injury occurred, so he got hurt last Sunday. And he's out 4 to 6 weeks. We did get that information was relayed to us after we had posted and recorded the last podcast where we speculated how long he was going to be out for. Now 4 to 6 weeks, and that might impact him getting to Gretzky's record this year. I think now it's more likely it happens next year with him missing that much time. That being said, there's still a frenzy for his cards. Like, even after the injury last Sunday, I still had like 4 or 5 people who hemmed and hawed. I have a PSA 8 Young Guns. It was in my showcase, and a lot, like 4 or 5 people hemmed and hawed and asked for my information and said, "Can I message you later in the week if I, consider it?" And yeah, I've had 4 people reach back out to me after the show asking about the Ovechkin. So the injury aside, people are still looking to load up and buy Ovi. So I'm still looking to sell. And again, I am of the belief that the time to sell Ovechkin is going to be ramping up to, up to the record. And then once he closes in on like, I don't know, 5-10 goals of it, that'll probably be peak. And that's when you really should sell. But I'll even, I'll move stuff right now. It's still going at a very, very good price. And I'm happy with the profits that I'll have made off my Ovechkin purchases. So I'm in the same boat as you there. All right, let's travel to Toronto. A city that both of us reside in. You're a fake Bruins fan because you once again are rocking a Toronto Maple Leafs hat on top. Yeah, well, I mean, Jimmy Thomas is a bum. Yeah, he's a bum.
Hey,
what do you wear on your hat? On your head?
Matthews.
That's
Matthews fan right here. I'm a Matthews fan.
And Austin Matthews not returning for tonight's game against Florida, by the way. So he'll miss a 9th straight game. Should return Saturday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. But his market's taken a bit of a dip. The other 2 superstars in Toronto, we've seen a nice increase in that time because they've both rattled off some successful games here, especially Mitch Marner. So buy, sell, hold, the 3 top dogs in Toronto: Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, William Nylander.
I think I'm going to buy a little bit to everyone's surprise. I'm going to buy Willie. He's been electric. Whenever I watch him play, I honestly think that he's starting to become one of the best players on Toronto. And that might be with a little bit of recency bias too, because I haven't watched Austin Matthews play in almost, I believe, 8 or 10 games now.
9.
And I don't think he's going to be back for a while. I don't think he's going to play against Tampa.
Saturday.
No, I don't think people said that last week. Oh, he's coming back.
He's
Sunday.
coming back Saturday against Tampa.
All right.
He was in practice today.
All right. We'll see. And we'll come back next week when he still hasn't played yet. But my conversation right now is I'm buying Willie. I'm selling on Marner, and I'm going to hold on Matthews. Like I said, a little bit stagnant on his market right now. I don't know the severity of this injury. I still believe there's more going on. A little bit of a conversation to be had too, because even though they were saying last week, oh, he's going to be ready to go Wednesday. And I'm having some crazy deja vu right now. It's insane because I had the same thing said last week. They said he was going to be ready to go. He kind of said in his interview, you know what, I might need, I might need 1 or 2 more practices. You know, I don't know what's going. I still think he's injured. I don't think he's going to be playing Saturday. And I think this injury means a lot more than people are making out to be. That's still my argument. And ever since I lobbed it out there last week, he still hasn't played. People said, oh, he's playing Sunday. Oh, he's playing Wednesday.
No one said he was playing Sunday. It was always Wednesday, and it's one more game. You're acting like everyone said he was coming back the next day. He was never expected to play until today. So he's getting one extra game off for rest. That's it.
I heard that everything in Toronto is set in stone. That's what we were talking about last week. Everything in the media should be set in stone with this organization. Even still, he's not playing. And my hot take, he won't be playing Saturday. So either way, buying Willie, selling Marner, holding Matthews, no doubt.
I'm buying Matthews because I still have long-term belief in Austin Matthews being, one of the top players in the NHL, the top goal scorer in the NHL. We saw what the ceiling could be last year when he was on his goal tear. And right now, his market is down. Like, you can get PSA 10 Young Guns regularly for $1,000. You can pick up really nice autos and RPAs for fairly cheap. Whereas I think these other two, especially at the moment, are a little high right now because they're playing well. Mitch Marner's playing some of the best hockey he's ever played over the course of his career. I don't know if you know this, but the last 8 games that Austin Matthews has been out, Mitch Marner has 2 or more points in 7 of those games. Like, that's 7 multi-point games in the last 8 where, someone's needed to step up with Matthews out, and Marner's done just that. So for me, I'm buying Matthews. I think I'm holding on William Nylander, and I'm going to sell Mitch Marner because I think his market's finally starting to pick up right now. People are finally starting to hop back on the Marner train. And for me, William Nylander, I just think that he, to your point, I agree with what Anthony was talking about, where, Nylander's a guy who does continue to ascend. He seems to be getting better year after year after year. And it has certainly closed that gap between him and Mitch Marner when it comes to who's the second best player in Toronto, Matthews obviously being the first. But I think that we're also seeing a hobby market surge on Nylander as well. Like, a lot of pickups at the expo, lots of people asking about William Nylander. So there's a demand for him. So I think that there's going to continue to be that. So yeah, for me, I'm going to be buying up as much Austin Matthews as I can right now, especially with his return imminent, as I firmly believe. Nylander I'm holding, and then I'm going to sell Mitch Marner because, again, he may price himself out of Toronto entirely. He just might not be in Toronto in a couple of next season. Like, if he continues to do what he's doing, I've heard, some people suggest that he could be worth Draisaitl money, go for $14 million. If that's the case, I'm not sure he's going to be sticking around in Toronto. So Mitch Marner, after 4 straight 2-point games, he's got 2+ points in 7 of the last 8 without Matthews. His market's on fire right now. I'm selling him immediately. And then buying up Matthews and holding William Nylander. All right. On the other side of things, 3 struggling stars in the market, 3 guys who are down right now, Anthony: Connor Bedard, Elias Pettersson, and Zach Hyman. Buy, sell, hold.
I think kind of relative to our conversation we were having before right now, I'm a little bit indifferent with Bedard, but I have to almost buy him because of all that hype he had before, I think his prices are going to fall down to a more reasonable market level for him. So I'm going to buy Bedard. I'm going to hold on Pedersen, and I'm selling Hyman. I'm done with Hyman. I mean, obviously he had a great year last year, but I even was saying it last year. He was obviously what's it called? Silencing the haters, saying that McDavid was really carrying him. But I'm not really too interested in his market because he's had such a big struggle this year. He's going to be great with Connor McDavid. They're probably going to be line mates in the Four Nations face-off, but I don't think right now I want to buy back into his market because he might only come out of the season with 30 goals, maybe 35 max.
Dude, he has 3 goals right now.
Yeah, and it's very tough.
What do you think his PSA 10 is selling for?
$80.
96. Last sale was $96 for Zach Hyman, but that's this is a guy last year in the playoffs. Like he was selling for $200 all day long, last year, and that market's cut completely in half after a real tough start to the year. Just 3 goals, just 8 points in 20 games for Zach Hyman. Yeah, I probably would be selling on Hyman as well, and I'm probably buying Pedersen. I think Pedersen is the guy who I'm going to buy right now because. First of all, he's actually starting to kind of heat up. Like I keep seeing, like I've got him in fantasy again. You go back to how much you always talk about fantasy. I've had him, and it's been a tough year. But he's starting to put up some points in the last little bit. He's starting to finally find the score sheet. In the month of November, he's got 11 points. He's got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5, 6 in his last 6 games. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4 multi-point games this month. So he's starting to finally get back to being the Elias Pettersson. He's finding his confidence. So I'm willing to buy. I think that we're about to see him start to get going, and that market's going to shoot back up. And, going back to the point about Bedard, I guess I'm willing to hold Bedard just because I do believe that a dip is going to come. But Bedard also, because if he starts to perform, there's a possibility that we do see it go back up. And if he does turn into a generational talent, which is still very much a possibility, then yes, he will be worth $1,000+ much like, we see, when McKinnon was winning Stanley Cups and when, Crosby's up in that range, Ovi, obviously, McDavid, and Austin Matthews. Like, could he get to that stratosphere? For sure. So I'm not going to sell Bedard right now. I'll hold on it. Buy Pedersen. I'm selling Zach Hyman.
Sweet. I like it.
All right. That brings it close to buy, sell, hold. That was a fun little, like we always kind of, I think we should do some more mixing around with these types of segments. Like we've done the stock exchange a few times. We could throw in a little buy, sell, hold, and some other fun games, on a weekly basis, kind of mix it up a little bit. I thought that was a fun little conversation, though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even shout out to the hockey card exchange. I wanted to do it this week, but we think, incorporating a little bit of a different segment allows people, because you never know, people might feel indifferent about 2 different players' markets this week. Hopefully there was someone this week that was thinking, who do they want to buy? Matthews or Nylander? Now they kind of have that answer, and we help them get there. But shout out Anthony Cirelli this week, having a great week. He is definitely trending up on the hockey card stock exchange. So that was my pick if we were going to do it, but shout out Cirelli.
So to pull the curtain for those listening, obviously Anthony thought we were doing the stock exchange and did his research and said, screw it. I'm going to make sure everyone knows I did my research, and we're going to shout out Anthony Cirelli, who's stocking up anyways. But yes, he is playing very, very well right now. You want to, I got a couple. I got some Cirellis. Back during like pandemic when they were winning their cups. I was stocking up on Cirellis for pretty cheap. Yeah, I've got a couple. All right, some hobby news that we got to get into, Anthony. And I want to get into this discussion about this whole Canada Post strike that is still ongoing here in Canada. Have you found, as someone who does a lot of online dealing, both buying and selling and trading, have you found that it's been a little bit more difficult to get deals done with this strike?
I mean, I think it has been more difficult. I personally haven't bothered too much to go out of my way and try and look to buy or sell any cards, no story sales, anything like that just because of the struggle not being able to ship cards out. I know people have done
Well,
story
you
sales.
can. You UPS and FedEx.
Yeah, like you could, but even still, like the prices are obviously more with that. I've took this time more to take a break and maybe attend some card shows in person more, which I personally like doing more than story sales. I've seen people post story sales and say will ship after Canada Post strike is done, which we have no date on that at all right now. No date on that at all.
So I had that happen to me after you tell me if you think this is fair or foul, by the way. So I came up, did a deal, paid him EMT, and then he says, perfect, I'll ship out after the strike. I
Oh,
don't like that. I think that
yeah.
first of all, should have told me ahead of time that you weren't going to ship out until the strike. And I also think that like if you're like this was a deal over $150, you can spend the extra couple of bucks and FedEx it. You don't have to wait until the end of the strike for this.
Yeah, I mean, I see that's the one thing. So for me right now, I think I have it written downstairs just so I don't forget it, but 2 or 3 pending deals. But I actually went out and I said to all 3, I said, if you want to ship it out later, look, I'm in no rush. I'm not really setting up at any card shows. I'm not really looking to sell anything right now. This is just something that I think I'm going to buy and hold on to. So if you want to ship it after the strike, I have no problem with that. I even had one of the people say, well, I could drive it to you. I think he said he was from Richmond Hill, which is a 50-minute drive. And I said, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Like, it's not the biggest deal. So that's something I appreciated. But for you, you're in a little bit of a tougher situation because they didn't really disclose off the rip that, look, I'll ship it out later. And it's kind of like, well,
I wouldn't have cared if I wouldn't have paid for it already. He didn't
yeah,
tell me that until after I'd paid for it. Now,
yeah,
if he would have said, like, okay, let's do it, but I'm not going to ship out, I said, that's fine, but I'm not going to pay until you're ready to ship. You never know what could
yeah.
happen. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's why I have kind of a bad taste in my mouth over this deal. I'm not going to dox the guy, but I know you know who it is. We talked about that deal earlier this week. But I don't know, like, am I wrong for feeling like I kind of got, a little short change there? Because like now I just got like money just out and I don't have the
Yeah.
cards. I don't know.
I totally get your side of the argument. I think because I'm in a similar situation, the only issue is that I kind of disclosed before even sending any money, like, hey, look, I'm totally cool whenever you want to ship it. Like I was more like lenient, like,
Did you
if you
send the money
want,
out already?
I send the money out to all 3.
Mhm.
I'm good. I know all 3 of them. I'll probably reach out and just kind of like check in and be like, hey, maybe you want to FedEx it kind of and see what happens. Because it's been over 2 weeks, I think now. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not, in a terrible
Well, that and
situation
like,
because
you know how backed up the postage is gonna be once they do come back? Like, it's gonna be gross. It's gonna
oh
be
my, it's gonna be
absolutely the
terrible.
amount of packages that are gonna get lost also, like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a concern I have too. So, I don't know, I do think that this Canada Post strike is certainly impacting the hobby in a pretty big way,
Yeah.
specifically, I think when it comes to, like, online dealings, whether it's, like, marketplace, Instagram type of stuff. I do think that it's having, some sort of, impact here for sure. Um, 'kay. Let's take a look at our Slabsharks cards of the week. And just a reminder that the Hockey Card Haven podcast is now powered by Slabsharks, the #1 sports card consignment company in Canada. They've got thousands of listings each week. I bought 7 cards last week
Nice.
off of the auctions. I'm going to show them in our weekly pickups. And I've got over 100 watched items for this week's auction. So I'm already obsessed with this thing. And you've done a few submission drop-offs, which I don't know if they're going to be in this week's or next week's auction.
So it's going to be the upcoming week's auction. And even for me personally, it was a seamless transaction at Slabsharks. You go in, give them your cards. They'll even walk through it and be like, hey, like, yeah, that's a great card. This is really hot right now. And you talk to anyone there, they're very knowledgeable with their sports, what to auction, what not to auction, what price ranges people are looking for of each players. And they'll really give you tips as well. So walked in, set up an appointment, dropped off the cards, signed the papers that I needed to, and they will be on auction starting Thursday. So shout out everyone at Slabsharks for hooking that up. And I'm really excited to see what some of my cards do this week because I had some cards in there that I was a little bit indifferent to hold or sell. Or honestly, when you go there, the process is so seamless that they just make it way too easy.
Very, very, very easy to drop off. And dude, we've always talked about this too. Like they always have the highest comps. Like there's just so
Oh,
many
for sure.
eyeballs watching these auctions. There's a lot of people bidding on these cards, and you're getting bang for your buck. It certainly is well worth using the service. And pretty soon we'll start to have more of an affiliation with them, and we'll be able to help you guys use the service as well. But we're going to start doing this on a weekly basis, where we take a look at the Slabsharks auctions and taking a look at some of our favorite cards that are up and available for this week. And let's start off with your card, Anthony. I'm going to pull it up here, going to share the screen. And so the first card we're taking a look at, little Marty Nakash action.
Yep. I mean, this card a little bit higher than I would want to get into if I were picking it up right now. A great comp it's going to turn out to be for a player right now that's at the top of his game. His market's exploded. Like, I think Natchez is really one of those players that needs to keep on playing at this caliber to really sustain what his prices have come to. But that's a beautiful patch, 3 or 4 color patch. Black, white, gray, and red, which is just beautiful. Nice auto there too. And obviously picking up any Future Watch auto patches of a great player like that on auction, really awesome. So that's my card of the week right now too. And I don't even think I've ever seen a Natchez Future Watch auto patch. So this was something that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, and I mean, he's the hottest player in the NHL right now. Literally, like
Sure.
he's leading the NHL in points this year, which no one expected to see. I mean, the guy literally like asked for a trade this past summer. They said, thanks, but no thanks. We believe in you. We're going to hold on to you. Well, he's got 35 points, tied with Nathan McKinnon right now for the NHL scoring lead. So
Not
good
bad.
decision. Good decision by the Carolina Hurricanes there. All right, going to take a look. I actually have like a few. Like I said, I am watching currently over 100 right now when it comes to the Slabsharks auctions. And the first one that I want to take a look at here is Credentials Pro Vision Retro Fleer, super short print card. I love these Pro Vision cards. I have a Cole Caulfield, and I saw this Wayne Gretzky one I thought was pretty sick. And I personally like these types of cards more, stuff that's a little bit, it's not as liquid, but I mean, Gretzky's always liquid, but they're a little more unique. I always like more unique cards, stuff that's not, overprinted to the oblivion, I guess. So this was one that I thought was really, really cool that I'd love to pick up. And keeping on the theme of the great one, Wayne Gretzky, I saw this one as well. Wow. Really, really cool. 2007 O-Pee-Chee Premier, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, dual jersey, number to 50, PSA, authentic, but with an auto 10. So both get an auto 10. I believe those are on-card autographs as well. Yeah. Nice. So you've got Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky on-card autos. I wish Mario signed it a little better, obviously. Mm-hmm. Looks like it's not as centered as Wayne's autograph, but I thought that was a super, super cool card that'll be up for auction as well.
That's awesome. I love that one.
Yeah, that's a sick one. And I wanted to bring up this one as well because there's a conversation to be had here about this card. So this is not on auction. So they also do have some buy it nows for some of their clients. And this is a card that is up, and you could buy it now. It's offered at $5,832. It's an Alex Ovechkin Young Guns tag 10. So not PSA, not BGS. It's tag 10. And if you're unfamiliar with what tag is, it is a relatively newer company over the last couple of years, grading service, and it's completely computerized. So it's supposed to be, the most accurate grading software out there because it's not human error. It's all just completely computerized. So they say that tag should be, the most accurate grading service out there. So my question to you, Anthony, at $5,800, right? You can buy this, or there's a best offer as well. You can make an offer on it as also on Slabsharks. PSA 10s we know go for $7,000. The last sale was $7,000. If you're getting a tag 10, do you feel more confident that this could cross over into a PSA 10, and therefore would that be worth the buy or investment to you?
I mean, I do think, like you said too, it's supposed to be the most confident grading company in the business right now. It's very new. I think they still have a lot of opportunity to grow still tag, and there's a lot of in the future, the next 5 years, where we will see electronic grading. The card looks great, first off. Personally, though, I'd feel a little bit more confident going with a company like BGS maybe to crack into a PSA 10 if I were to try and attempt something like that, especially if you're going to pay such a good premium. 5,800 is still for sure a premium for a card, an awesome card that still has that elusive 10 that we all want our young guns to be ultimately. Personally, I think I would rather go with a BGS 9.5, bank for buck, risk versus reward, what I would have into the card, just because I know that these grading companies are so new. I think a lot of opportunity in the hobby come the next 5 to 10 years. But as of right now, we know PSA is the king and BGS is not too far behind.
I get that, but I'm more so thinking like which grade do you trust more to be accurate? A BGS 9.5 or a tag 10? Because a BGS 9.5, I mean, sure, it could be, a 9.5, or it could be a 9 that someone just gave a 9.5, or it could be an 8 that someone gave a 9.5 to. Whereas a tag 10, I mean, the software believes that's a 10, right? Like that's what I'm getting. I'm not talking about resale value,
Yeah.
but if there was one that you believe would be more likely to be a crack and crossover, uh, option. Do you have more faith in the tag 10 or in the BGS 9? That's the question I was asking.
I would personally have more faith, more confidence in the BGS 9.5. Me
So you don't
personally,
believe tags. You don't believe tags as good a company as some
BGS.
as they claim to be.
I would say as of right now that BGS would be the better company, but in the future, I think there's a lot of
Well,
opportunity.
why? Why do you say? Because I'm kind
I mean,
of I'm leaning tag. Like I think I would have more faith. Like gun to your head, you have these two
yeah,
cards.
yeah.
Which one do you believe will come back a better grade if you sent them both to PSA? Which one?
I, I mean, I just think maybe if you're going to base off your data with grading, maybe on what other PSA, if you're going to base with tag what other PSA 10s go for, and that's what they analyze and look as and relate to, and they say, okay, if this is going to be a tag 10, this is what a PSA 10 goes for, or anywhere in between a BGS 9.5 and a PSA 10, this is what we're looking for. Okay, that's where you could have confidence. But the fact that BGS has been doing this for years and years, they've graded many Ovechkins, looked at them, graded them, had the confidence within the hobby, which I think is a separate conversation as well. When you could walk around a show and without even having to explain, well, this is tag, they do grading, and this is what they do, and
That's
it's all
not what we're
computer.
talking, Anthony. You keep trying to. That's not what we're talking about.
No, but I
Once you
think
crack
too.
them, they're both raw. Once you crack them, they're both raw cards. But in your
No,
head,
but like
know
even
one
like
was a tag 10, one was a 9.5, and you have to send them both. You only get a chance to send one out. Are you sending out the raw that was previously a 9.5 or
from
the
the
tag
9.5
10?
for sure, the Beckett 9.5 for sure.
I'll send the tag 10.
No way. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'll send the tag 10. How many Beckett 8s have you gotten that you've sent in and got a PSA 10? Or opposite, you got a 9.5, you sent in a PSA and got a 6 or a 7.
No,
That's happened to
I
you.
personally have
That's
never.
happened to you.
Which one?
You didn't you crack a 9.5 and it came back an 8?
No. Wait, this expo?
No.
No,
Just
no.
in your lifetime.
I don't think so. No, I once cracked a BGS 8 Ovi and it came back a PSA 9.
I know,
That's
I
something
remember
that
that. I thought it was either a Crosby or a McKinnon that you cracked a 9.5 and it came back like an 8.
Oh, it was a MNT 9.5. It was a MNT 9.5 Crosby that came back it was the MNT 9.5 Crosby Young
Oh,
Guns
that
that came back a PSA 8, but then got cracked again into a PSA 10. And then McKinnon BGS 8, no pink, that got cracked into a PSA 10. That's
and this
right.
is why, first of all, separate conversation, but this is why it's insane. The premium that people put on graded cards. We're talking
Yeah, it's
about cards
nuts.
that were 8s, recracked, resubmitted, came back 10s.
Happens.
Happens all the time. So why do we pay a premium on this stuff? I will never know. I will never ever know. But at least tag is supposed to not allow that. Like you
Yeah.
can't it's supposed to, if you re-crack and resubmit something to tag, it should give you the exact same grade 100 out of 100 times, where you can't say the same about the other ones. But anyways, conversations for another day. I'll submit the tag though. Pickups of the week, Anthony. Show us what you got.
Let's do it. So I went to a show not too far from my house. I went to that Brampton trade one. Never been there before. It was pretty good. It was pretty good, honestly. There was a couple tables, a little bit more Pokemon and TCG than I anticipated, but a couple pretty good sports tables. That's what I am obviously looking for. So I would go again, not too far from my house either. So I was pretty comfortable going there. But I picked up three cards from my pickups that I wanted to show. So starting off, picked up a Connor McDavid printing plate 1/1. I thought this was a card that I kind of had a conversation with my buddy Eric about, and I think picking up McDavid printing plates and any printing plates are just so undervalued. I know there's so many out there because there's so many cards, but this McDavid was valued around $50, and I think it could go for upwards of $100. So if you do see any McDavid printing plates out there for around $50, I mean, I'm a buyer for sure. I think they are very valuable. And I mean, just being able to say, well, I picked up a McDavid 1/1 because that's what it is. I think is pretty fair. So I think that's pretty fair.
Do you like printing plates?
I like them personally. I've always kind of like had a little knack for them. Like people have always kind of said like, it's a printing plate. I don't really like it, but all the time, like the last 2-3 years, I've kind of just liked them. Like I don't know, still 1/1. I mean, depending on what you pay for them, obviously, but if you could get in for them, like I've seen Austin Matthews printing plates sell for $15, comps for $15-$20, and it's like, well, it's still a Matthews 1/1. I know it's not the 1/1 people are looking for, but look, like
is there much collectability? Is there much collectability in them? That's my question more so, I guess.
I mean, I'd say yes. I think you could collect printing plates. I think you could collect printing plate Young Guns. That's kind of like another 1/1. It's been through all the right. So
I do have a printing plate Young Guns retro at Dustin Wolf. I cracked it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Pulled that out of extended. Yeah,
beauty. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that one. Next up, picked up a Brandon Hagel before his big game popped off for 5 assists versus Colorado. They murdered them. But Hagel's been amazing on that second line, so I was really happy to pick up this one. Probably hold on to it, too, for a little bit because I think his prices are going to keep on shooting up, so I was happy with that. And then last but not least, Bobby McMahon Young Guns. I know I posted it on our Instagram story looking to buy them, and I still am looking to buy them. I'll probably buy them for $5 in a raw, and I'll anywhere from $40 to $50 in a PSA 10. So that's what I'm looking for right now. I think Bobby McMahon has a lot of opportunity with the Leafs still as a goal scorer. We had that conversation, and I'll keep trying to buy him up into the next expo.
Yeah, Bobby McMatthews, baby. Bobby McMatthews.
Yep.
I didn't hit up any card shows over the weekend, but I did, like I mentioned, grab 7 cards from the Slabsharks auction last week. So I guess I can show those off. This I thought was a really cool pickup. It was an Alex DeBrincat rookie patch number 225. So just a really nice rookie patch for DeBrincat. This is also a rookie jersey card from Sidney Crosby. And again, it's just like a rookie year jersey card from Sidney Crosby. What do you think this should be worth?
Like $80 to $100. Or I mean, should be 200 plus, maybe.
Well, no, I think like you're probably like kind of bang on, like between 100 and a little more than $100, maybe $100 and $120.
Yeah,
but it's like you could buy these cards for like $50-$60.
That's crazy.
Beehive Matter Materials, it's crazy. So picked one of those up. Your boy Rossi Colton, rookies shadow box. That was just a cheap random buy. And this was the most expensive purchase I made on the Slabsharks auction, but you got a rookie signatures unis away of Jason Robertson Cup Auto. So a little Jason Robertson Cup Auto quad patch number to 49, the away jersey. So that was a really sick one. I'm hoping J-Rob picks it up a little bit here. Would be very nice for him to get going and score a bunch more goals. I still believe in the Dallas Stars, a quality team. Josh Norris, PSA 10 Young Guns, I got pretty cheap. And then this was a nice pickup too. Like, again, you talk about picking up Connor McDavid printing plates. If you can also just get like McDavid PSA 10s of any capacity, not a terrible pickup either. So I grabbed an
Love that.
Allure Red Rainbow 2019 Allure PSA 10. Really, really love the red rainbows. They got the nice shine to them. Allure is a fun set. And then there was also just this football card that I picked up to Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, game used number 225. So I grabbed a nice little football card there as well. But so that was my lot from last week's auctions at Slabsharks. I'm sure I'll probably have a couple more to show next week because it's an addicting. You can get some good snipes there too. You can get some good snipes for sure. All right. Well, it's a full slate of shows this weekend. Also, speaking of Slabsharks, Friday night, Mint Inc., our guy Johnny from Mint Inc., is hosting a trade night at his at the Mint Inc. Spot in Vaughan, and I believe Karn is going to be there. Karn, owner and founder of Slabsharks, they'll be taking submissions for consignment there. That'll be from 6 to 9 p.m. So there's something to consider as well. If you got nothing going on Friday night, you want to make a trip out there, bring your cards that you'd be looking to consign with Slabsharks. So 6 to 9 for that one. Saturday, you got an Evolutions card show in Richmond Hill. And then Sunday, 2 shows if you want. You've got a Box of Card show in Aurora. That's from 10 to 3. And then the Durham card show in Whitby. That is from 10 to 3 as well. So if you want, you can make your full weekend filled with card activities. Lots going on in the final weekend of November.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Mint Inc. one a couple times, enjoyed that. Evolutions might be there. I mean, I always say we'll see what happens when I wake up, but
and then you usually
I'll be there. And then I usually show up, but it is a little far, so we'll see this weekend. I might take the weekend off, but we'll see what happens. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a fun weekend of cards. If you see us out there, be sure to say hello. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe right here on YouTube and also on Spotify, soon to be up on Apple Podcasts as well. Thank you to our show sponsors, Slabsharks. And you got one more thing you want to say?
I want to say a special shout out. This is going to be the last week of Movember. Shout out everyone that's doing Movember. Men's mental health, a very big advocate. I'm a very big advocate for it. If you are looking to donate, I can provide a link for one of my buddies who's I've been helping donate and telling people to follow his journey of doing it, because it's something that I follow and I'm really a big advocate for. So shout out everyone that's done it so far, and it's been a lot of fun too. So something I want to really say.
Yeah, shoot me the link. We'll put it in the description below. All right, that does it for us here today. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of the Hockey Card Haven podcast.